Hi all, Joshua Steger here from etfadvisor.com.au, and today I'll do my usual weekly rundown of the Aussie ETF market and what we're finding interesting this week and what investors should be watching. So as usual, we've got our subscription email out to subscribers, and as you can see, it's pretty comprehensive. We've got actually 10 key ideas this week, plus we cover looking at basically every ETF in the Aussie market and give you some ideas of what to watch for the week ahead. And if you're interested in a free 30-day trial, look to the links in my YouTube profile. So we'll start this week with the Aussie index, and as you can see, not a lot of progress, just nearing those all-time highs, and we kind of expected that we're going to get some bit of back and fill at previous all-time highs. And the reason for that at the moment is we're actually getting a bit of rotation finally. So to start the financial year, we had a bit of selling in the bank. So this is the OZF Bank ETF, Financials ETF, and you can see there's the distribution, and then we've had a few days of selling. So we're interested to see if that continues this week. And the money pretty much flowed back into resources finally. So you see BHP from really oversold levels had a good couple of days. So still in a pretty solid downtrend, but we'll see if that gets a bit of follow-up buying this week. So that's certainly something to watch for the Aussie market. And here you see the tech index not making much progress either. So probably waiting for a bit of news in terms of financial reports and whatnot to give a bit more indication as to whether things can continue to move in the Aussie market. Some key ideas just in terms of, or key things to watch this week are copper. So we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, and certainly improving in terms of its consolidation. See, it's kind of a bit junky, but now it's nearing those all-time highs and actually looking quite constructive. So a move into base metals is going to be a big change for our market, and certainly a lot of institutions are underweight resources just because they've been terrible performers, apart from obviously precious metals. So here we see gold, which has been certainly one of the best performers the last couple of years, and that's actually holding up pretty well. So I thought it was going to certainly look like it was threatening to sell off, but it's kind of holding in there. So that's really interesting. And silver as well. I certainly didn't give silver much credit. Certainly if gold was going to sell off, I didn't think silver was going to move either. But given gold's holding up, silver's actually looking quite constructive here as well. So perhaps that can push out this week. And somewhat related to that, precious metals, and then obviously we've got Bitcoin as well. So we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks. We spoke about this being that bull flag pattern, and it's kind of just moved above that this week and got back up to $110,000 a coin, and I think the all-time high is around 112,000. So this is looking really interesting and constructive for the week ahead. And as I said, we've been watching this just given that sheer. If you look on the weekly chart, you just had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks of back-to-back buying from the lows. And when you get that kind of strength, and it was actually really quite a significant move, so it's come from 76 back into all-time highs at 112 and then consolidated nicely. So certainly worth watching. And another reason to keep an eye on that as well is we've got crypto-related stocks actually looking really good as well. So one way to play that in Australia is CRYP, the BetaShares Crypto ETF. And as you can see, that's looking really constructive, actually pushed out a little this week. So certainly one to watch. And just in terms of a couple holdings, we spoke about Coin, and that is the largest holding in that ETF. And as you can see, it's been incredibly strong and actually holding in really constructively there. So that's something to watch, as well as I think this is the 5th largest holding in the CRYP ETF, and this is Metaplanet in Japan. And you can see, look at that run. It's about 500% since kind of end of April, and is actually holding in really constructively here as well. So as I said, I think there's something brewing in the crypto market, and could well be the biggest mover this week. So we'll certainly keep an eye on that. Just in terms of the US market, that's where the action was last week. So that pushed into new all-time highs and had a good few days of back-to-back buying. You can see those green bars, just back-to-back buying into new all-time highs. Now the question is how much money is sitting on the sidelines that wants to buy at these levels now, and there are some indications that institutions are short and or underweight the markets at the moment, and may be forced to buy, which might see a bit of a further move in the next couple of weeks. But outside of that, probably just cautioning investors to just be a little cautious what you're buying at these levels, because you don't necessarily want to be buying at the top. And we may get a little correction in the next couple of weeks and get shaken out of those positions, or certainly have those positions create more stress than they need to. So just be a bit careful what exposures you're playing at the moment. Here's the Nasdaq as well, a really good week into new all-time highs. So pretty incredible action in the US, and that differs to say what we saw in Europe. Still in that kind of consolidation phase that we've been talking about the last few weeks. So it's now pretty much a month and a half of not doing much after a really strong bounce from that tariff correction. So probably expect more of the same from the Europe market. Then we've got India and China, which we've been talking about quite a lot the last few weeks, and they basically had a rest week last week. So you had a good week the week prior, and then it's kind of just consolidated last week. So we'll see if that then turns into further buying this week, and it's not too far off all-time highs. So pretty incredible. Certainly we're watching the Indian market this week. And then we've got Asia as well. So Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index, also had a bit of a rest week. So probably a little bit weaker than I expected, but still very constructive in terms of the consolidation it's putting in here. And that will then be a run into kind of, I think it'll be a new five-year high. So there's your tariff correction, and then it's just kind of pretty nicely consolidating for a potential run into new five-year highs. So certainly a market to watch in the week ahead. Just in terms of going back to that kind of base metals idea, we're also starting to see a bit of action in some of these other metals. So certainly kind of AI. We know AI and the requirement for electricity over the next couple of years is going to be huge. So that's one way to play it, is through the metals. So here's XMET. This is kind of electricity related, energy related metals, and you can see that's actually looking really constructive as well. So that's probably a really key thing to watch this week. That rotation into base metals and how copper performs. And here we've got Wire, which is an ETF of copper stocks. You can see that's really constructive as well, and that had a pretty good week. So probably coming up against a bit of weekly resistance here now. But yeah, one to watch. Are we going to get a push? Could copper move like gold? Certainly, as I said, many institutions are underweight base metals at the moment, so that's something to keep an eye on, and could be really quite important for our market as well, and in particular the small caps. So here's the small cap index in Australia, and you can see it looks a little weaker than what it really was. So this is a VSO ETF, but it paid a distribution here. So if you factor that in, I think it was actually flat this week, but that could really push, because I think about 25% of the small caps index is materials and resources stocks. So that's something to watch this week as well. So as I said, there's a few things to watch this week. We've actually got, as I said, 10 ideas for subscribers at the moment, and a few of them also going to be in that AI related space. So that's pretty much the key theme for the market at the moment. So here's another one to watch. It's probably just a little bit early because you kind of got that resistance up here, but it's shaping up really nicely and it's had a good couple of weeks, and that's Robo. So this is robotics and automation ETF, and as I said, that's certainly one that we're keeping a close eye on for the next few weeks. So that's pretty much a quick summary, just in terms of, as I said, what we're watching those base metals. watching Bitcoin in particular, and also we'll just see what happens in terms of the rotation within the Aussie market if we continue to get rotation out of financials and back into resources, and also if we do get some follow-on buying in India and Asia this week, that could be quite telling. As I said, we've got some really good opportunities in terms of ETFs listed on the ASX that will give you a good exposure to those markets, which in terms of valuation and potential growth are probably the better looking markets globally at the moment. So certainly I think it's going to be an exciting week, watching for all this rotation, and once again, just caution how you play the market at the moment, because you certainly don't want to be buying just index-like exposures. I think you've got to be a little bit cautious, buying at all-time highs and potentially running into a correction in the next couple of weeks, which will shake you out, or as I said, create more stress than they're worth. But in terms of the ideas that we're looking at, we're generally looking at sector and thematic ideas, which are still, I think, really quite good value, and hopefully aren't exposed to an upcoming correction, just in terms of them being new ideas and outside of the typical index-related exposures. So I hope that's a good summary. As I said, if you're interested in a free 30-day trial, check out the link in my YouTube notes. So until next week, thanks for your time.